Hello, basketball fans. Welcome to Fantasy Basketball Analyzer. It's me, DC Hewitt, and I'm here to give you Week 10 waiver wire pickups to help you win. If you didn't see, I already did my video breaking down the Week 10 schedule. I'll link it right here, right now. If you want to see the schedule grid in spreadsheet form to use throughout the week, it's linked there, so don't skip yesterday's video. As I bring up this grid to look forward to Week 10 and a little bit of Week 11, like we talked about in the last show, I want to take a second to look back, because I've tried to come up with the names for the waiver wire. Honestly, a lot of the players that I think are the best pickups are players we've already talked about in prior weeks. They just haven't hit that point. So I'm going to touch on them because they might be better options than the other guys I'm going to talk about, but it's not a fun show if I'm just giving you the same guys. So I do have some deeper ads that do get me a bit excited. But first, let's talk about the obvious things. Cody Zeller, he's rostered in 45% of leagues. He had a bummer of a game, 5 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. And Charlotte's schedule got screwed up. So maybe people dropped him just because they needed someone else out there. That means he's available in half of leagues. I think he's going to be solid. The game before this dud, he had 10 and 12. You take a double-double with 71%. Yeah, for a guy on the waiver wire, that's going to be pretty good in your category league. The game before, 17 and 8, and he shot 87%. He's not hurting you. He gives you just what you think you need for a big man. He's out there. Take a look. He doesn't have the ceiling of some of the guys we're going to talk about later, but he's worth looking at. Likewise, Kendrick Nunn, only rostered in 43%. 43%? The last game he had 27 points with 5 threes. He's playing really well and he needs to be owned. If he's not rostered in your league, Kendrick Nunn belongs on your team right now. How about Jae'Sean Tate? He's only rostered in 26% of leagues, and I think that should be higher. Over the last 2 weeks, he's averaging 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2 to 3 assists, but he's also getting you a steal and a 3. And he's averaging 61% field goal percentage from the floor. If you're in a category league, you can get a shooting guard right now, averaging 61%. That's great. That can really, he's not taking a ton of shots. He's only taking 10 shots a game, but that's still great. You get him at shooting guard, you get the steal, the 3, 26% is too low. I'm not saying everyone has to run out and get him, but I feel like he's still being overlooked, and I'm just a little surprised about it. Along the same lines of guys, I'm surprised the roster percentage hasn't gone up quicker. Saddiq Bey is still only at 44%. I talked about him the other week and said, hey, 30 points, that happened. That's awesome. But it's a maybe, watch for it. As the week went on, I was sure he was going to be off this list of eligibility for me to discuss. But he's averaging 4 3-pointers a game over the last 2 weeks. If you want threes, you should go pick up Saddiq Bey and plug him in as your small forward, right? Even though the scoring came down, which was expected, last game he got 14 points. He still hit 4 threes on his way to 14 points. So you know what you're getting from him. You're getting shots up and they're threes. In Detroit, he's going to get a lot of run. And I'm surprised I can still talk about him. All right, enough about the shallow league ads, guys we talked about the other weeks. We're going to go way deeper here. For starters, I wanted to recommend a center from Washington, right? If you take a look, they got 5 games this week, and they get 2 games next week, which is solid because it's the short All-Star week. I really wanted to say, pick up Alex Len or pick up Mo Wagner, but I don't know. They're rostered in 3 and 4% leagues, so they're widely available. But if you're in a weekly locked league, despite the 5 games, I don't trust either of them to lock them in for the week. If you can make the daily move, I think it's worth rolling the dice. Pick someone up, see if something happens, but it's Mo Wagner plays and then he just gets benched and Len plays and then Len plays only 5 minutes. I don't know what's going on. So I had to go somewhere else for my center recommendation. Since I'm not confident enough to recommend one of those guys with the 5 games, I went the extreme other way. Guillermo Hernangómez is rostered in 20% of leagues. I think he's the center I'm recommending for this week. I should say I think. I am recommending him. I'm not overly confident. It's a real small sample size, but some good games there. 2 games ago, he had 11 points, but 17 rebounds. Then he got 9 points and 13 rebounds. If his minutes stay up like this, up at 25, 29 minutes per game, I think he's usable. He's only got 3 games this week, which isn't ideal. That's why it's the opposite of the 5-game option. But what's cool about it is the Pelicans have 3 games next week. So on the short week, when most people are playing 1 or 2 games, if you can get Hernangómez and he's still playing well for you, you're going to get a big advantage by getting the extra game or 2 for next week. So I give him a look. If you're in a daily change league, you don't have to jump on him just yet, I don't think. Like I said, he's only 20% rostered. And the way the schedule is for the New Orleans, they play Detroit, Milwaukee, San Antonio, 3 games in 4 days. So you can wait a little bit here and try and snag them. But you like the matchup against Detroit. And then the Milwaukee and the Spurs games are falling on low volume days. So you could probably get him in there and stream. So that's why I bumped him up to the top of the list for me. On the other hand, if you're less worried about rebounds and you're really looking to pick up blocks, Jaden McDaniels is your man out of Minnesota. Here we go. Over the last 2 weeks, here are his block totals. 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2. Only one game out of the last 2 weeks has he had one block. He posted a block in all of them. He's only rostered in 4% of leagues. Minnesota's got 4 games this week, so you can pick them up. They're also clustered on back-to-back, so if you're in a daily change, you can pick them up and play them for just a couple. If you're trying to make up blocks in your head-to-head matchup, this could really work out, and he's 96% available. All right, staying in these deep waters here, my next player is actually, I think, my favorite ad of the week because it could have a season-long impact. I don't know why I'm drawing out by not saying his name. Justise Winslow has finally played a game again in the NBA. He's only rostered in 7% of leagues, so he's available in 90% of leagues. And I think there's a good chance he could be on your fantasy team for the rest of the season if you go get him. He came back. He didn't play great. He looked rusty. He had 9.7 rebounds, but he shot 21%. He only played 21 minutes. So, I don't know what they're going to do with his health. Are they going to worry about back-to-backs and ease him into this? All of these questions are there. The nice thing is you get a little sample here before the All-Star break. So Memphis has 4 games this week, and they've got 2 games next week. So it's a solid schedule where if you pick him up, you could probably use him. But even if you aren't ready to use him, I think he should be rostered 7% of leagues. This needs to jump up well over the 50% right away. So by comparison, even though Winslow is only 7% rostered, here are some guys we've talked about in other weeks I'd be willing to cut for him because I think it's worth rolling the dice on Winslow, right? We talked about Kaminsky's rostered 2%, get him out of there. Melton's 10%, he can go. MCW, I still like as an ad, although his field goal percentage is terrible. I'd cut him for Justise Winslow. I'm ready to cut Gallinari for Justise Winslow. Grayson Allen's been playing well if you want points and threes, but I would cut him for Justise Winslow. For sure, there is a chance that Justise Winslow does not work out, right? He looked rusty, and I'm giving him a full-throat endorsement that you should pick him up. And it might not work. The thing is this is the move that could really make an impact all season. Whereas some of these other guys, I'm saying, pick up McDaniels and get some blocks. That's not going to change your season. Winslow is that chance, right? My friend Chris Harris over on the Football Channel and podcast will talk about how there's just the right play to do, right? Like if you're following the book in poker, there's certain times where you make these bets. This hand should win. The cards don't always work out that way, right? But this is the right way to play it. Memphis really wants Justise Winslow involved. He could be a key component to a team, and he's available in over 90% of leagues. This is someone you make a move and you pick up and you give it a shot. If it doesn't work, you cut him again. I'm not saying cut a superstar for him, but you want him on your team. You don't want him to get used against you because he's got the chance to get you points, assists, and rebounds, be a top 70 player for the rest of the season. Go grab him. See what happens over the next 2 weeks. Speaking of, let's see what happens over the next 2 weeks. Let's talk about a player I didn't think we'd discuss all season. Denis Smith Jr. That's right. Denis Smith Jr. made the waiver wire show. Cool, right? He's rostered in 6% of leagues, and his last game was an interesting stat line. 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. No points at all. Okay. And Dave, you're saying you should pick him up? The thing is, DeLon Wright hurt his groin, and he's going to be out for the next 2 weeks. So Denis Smith Jr., only rostered in 6% of leagues. That part makes sense, but he's probably going to be starting now, I think. It's worth the roll of the dice, right? Detroit's going to get 4 games now. They only get 1 game next week. So, assuming Wright's back after All-Star break, maybe this isn't a huge ad, but if you're looking for a guy with some upside running into a bunch of minutes this week, I guess I'm saying check out Denis Smith Jr. And with that lukewarm endorsement, I think that wraps up this show. If you want someone who's going to contribute longer, look at some of those guys we talked about in the prior weeks and the start of here. Saddiq Bey, Jae'Sean Tate. You can pick them up and keep rolling them out there. If you want guys from this week, I gave you a lot of deep league choices widely available. And either way, Justise Winslow is the top of my list right now. 7% rostered. Here's how it works. If you add him and he works out great, this is awesome. You're going to feel smart. If you add him and he works out terrible, you get to come here and give me crap for getting that call wrong. So go add Justise Winslow, win-win for you, and go out and win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts. And I'll be back soon with another video for you. Man, Porzingis is just so white no matter what I do to my lighting setup. He will not show up. And I think I'm talking about the shirt, but maybe I'm just talking about Porzingis.